Hi guys, it's Angela from the London App Brewery. Welcome to episode 5 of how to make apps with no programming experience. And in this episode, the topic that we cover is actually really crucial. It's about how we design apps. And I know that a lot of programming tutorials completely skip this step, but as an iOS developer, I know how important this is to making a beautiful end product. So that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn about how to mock up within Xcode. So let's get to it. Mockups are highly, almost photorealistic representations of your app. So, professionally, they're usually created within Sketch or within Photoshop, and they are almost as if somebody took a screen capture of your app while in use. Now, as a iOS developer, I'm not a designer, but working in an indie dev group, you kind of have to do everything. And for us, we don't tend to do that many mockups just because it duplicates work. But what we do tend to do a lot is we use Xcode's design functionalities to lay out the app. So once we've got a good idea of how we want, the buttons to be placed, or how the images should be placed, or how, the elements, the user interface elements should interact with each other, then we lay it down within Xcode. And that's what we're going to show you today. Now today, the app that we're going to make is a simple dice app. So it has 2 die faces, and all you do is you press the roll button and they generate random die faces in the 2 images. So this can be a really great app to have in your pocket whenever you need a dice. I can think of many situations where I need to settle a score or try to outcompete somebody. A dice is always a good option. So the other thing that you can do is that once we teach you how to sideload it and install it onto your physical device, you can use the shake gesture. So you can shake your phone and it will also change the dice. All right, so let's get designing. Okay, so open up Xcode and we're going to click on Create a New Xcode Project. Now make sure that you are under the iOS tab, iOS Applications, and then click on Single View Application. Click Next. And here the product name, we're going to call our app Dice App. And you can leave your organization name blank if you don't have one. Just make sure that you've got an organization identifier. So it could be com.yourname or com.yourweb address. And make sure that the language is selected to Swift and not Objective-C. Okay, and then click Next and save it wherever you want, but I'm going to leave it in the desktop. Great, so now we have our file template made. Okay, so in order to design our app, we're going to head over to main.storyboard, which is our main design file. And this is called the interface builder. If you remember, we had a map of Xcode that I posted on the descriptions part. I'll link it again in the descriptions here, just so that you can get used to all the names of the different parts of Xcode. Okay, so here we have this large square canvas, and the square canvas was introduced in Xcode 6, so the last version of Xcode, to make it easier for people who develop apps for both the iPhone and the iPad. This allows you to design for both simultaneously. But today we're only going to be making an iPhone app, so I want to change the canvas back to the more familiar iPhone shape. So all I need to do is click on View Controller and make sure that this is highlighted in blue. So click on this yellow icon and make sure it's highlighted in blue. And then we're going to go to here, which is the little document symbol, and we're going to go to what's called the File Inspector. So inside the File Inspector, we are going to uncheck where it says Use Size Classes. And you get this little pop-up, and make sure that it says Keep Size Class Data for iPhone. And we're going to disable size classes. So now it reverts to a canvas that looks a bit more familiar, and it is in fact the size for an iPhone 5, which is fine. So now in order for our app to look pretty, we want it to have a nice green velvety background that reminds people of Las Vegas casinos. So we're going to go over to the object library. So remember that the object library is in the right corner here. And if you don't see what I'm seeing, just make sure that this little square within a circle icon is clicked, because there's other libraries here that you could be in. Okay, so now that you've got the object library up, then you can type into the search bar for image view. And there we go, an image view pops up. And all we have to do is click and drag it onto our canvas, and then line it up with the top left corner and resize it to fit the whole canvas. So an image view is essentially a picture frame. Once we drag it on, it doesn't show anything because it's an empty picture. So we have to slot our own picture into it in order for it to display anything. But we don't have any pictures or icons for this app yet. So we're going to go over to assets.xc Xcode assets. And here you can see that we've got a tab called app icon, and it's got these little placeholders for the different sized app icons, and we're going to fill them all up. So if you look in the description text below this video, you will see a download link which will get you towards our dicey assets file, and in that folder there's a number of images that we're going to use. So go ahead and download that. Okay, so now that you have this folder Dicey Assets downloaded, take a look inside and you'll find that we provided you with a number of image assets. So all the images for the die faces and the app icon images. So let's first fill up these app icon placeholders. So make sure that you are inside the app icon tab and you can see all these slots. If you look at the naming of the images, they say something like icon 40 at 2x. So that's a 40-point icon at the 2x size. Now, what does that mean? So when you write at 2x within a file name, and it comes just before the .png or file type, and that means that you're telling Xcode that this image is optimized for a Retina screen. A Retina screen is 2 times the normal resolution. So the new iPhone 6 or the iPhone 5 all have Retina screens, and Xcode will know to grab this image when it's being displayed on an iPhone 6. So if you look over here, you've also got a placeholder that says 40 point, and you've got one for 2x and you've got one for 3x. So we're going to drag the 40.2x into its correct location and the 40.3x over here. Then we're going to find the 60.3x, put it over here, 60.2x. And now we've got icon small. So small is actually a 29-point image. So we're going to drag that over again, 2x and 3x. And now we have filled up all of our basic app icon image sizes. Now, what does a point mean? So in our design course, we go into this in a little bit more detail, but essentially a point is 1 pixel if you are on a normal iPhone screen. But if you are on a Retina screen, such as the iPhone 6, then 1 point actually equals 4 pixels. And if you're on an even higher resolution screen, such as the iPhone 6 Plus, it actually is 6 pixels. And this is why we have the 3x images and the 2x images. These will be served up to the iPhone 6s, iPhone 5s, and these will be served up to the iPhone 6 Plus. Now we've got the rest of the images, and you can see that there isn't a file or a placeholder for them. So all that we're going to do is we're going to select all of the dice files, and we're just going to drag it in one sweeping motion. So now you can see that Xcode is clever enough to know that you have 6 dice images and it's named them according to your naming conventions. and it's deleted the @2x and instead placed those images into the correct slots. So this would be dice1 @2x that Xcode has read and put it into the placeholder for the 2x image. Now let's do that also for the dice logo. Let's select both of them and put them in there, and also for new background and put that in there. So we provided the 1x, so normal resolution, and also the retina screen resolutions for all the images. So now this section should look like this, and each of the images should have at least 2 images associated with them because they are different sizes. Okay, so let's head back over to main storyboard and slot the new background image into the image view. So make sure that the image view is selected. You can either select it on the interface builder, or you can select it over here in the document outline. Just make sure that it's highlighted. And then here where it says image, we're going to type new. And as soon as you type new, Xcode already knows that there's a file called new background and it's suggesting it to you, which is the correct one. So just hit enter and there it goes. It inserts that picture into the picture frame. And next we are going to drag another image view to the top here and just align it to that top margin and wait until the middle, the central line pops up as well. So this tells you that this image is horizontally aligned in the center, and also it's right up to the top margin, and then just drop it in there. And in here, we're going to put the dice logo. So we can put in dice, and then we can press the down arrow key to search for dicey logo, and then press enter. So now you can see that it's a little bit stretched and it looks a little bit awkward. So we are going to make sure again it's selected here or here, and where it says mode, we're going to say aspect fit, and that means it's no longer stretched and looks a bit more normal. So finally, we're going to drag on another image view, and we're going to put the dice faces in this image view. So now we need a square, and although we can drag it around and have a look at the width and height value that's provided on that top left corner, it's a little bit fiddly and I don't really want to fiddle with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here, which is the size inspector, and I'm going to change its width to 100 and its height to 100. And now we have a perfect square, and I'm going to put it just in the center vertically, and I'm going to align it. Can you see this blue line that's coming up here? That's saying that that image is now aligned with the left edge of this image, and that's exactly what we want. Now we're going to select this image view, copy it, so Command C and Command V to paste it so that we have an identically sized image view. And we're again going to put it right up against the right edge, aligning with this top image. Okay, and in this image view, let's just go over to the attribute inspector. So go on the little shield symbol, and we're going to put on dice 1, and this one can have dice 2. So this is obviously all just for mocking up purposes, because our program is going to change the images in there. And finally, we need a roll button. So in here, instead of searching for image view, we're going to search for button. And there we go, a button pops up. And let's just drag it so it's somewhere that looks relatively decent. And we're going to change the text from saying button to saying roll. And we're going to do that by changing the title over here. Make sure that you've got the attribute inspector selected. So let's change that text to roll. And I want this text to be a bit bigger. So I'm going to click on this T button, and I'm going to change the size to 30. So now you can see that my text is completely gone from the button, and that may puzzle you, but it's only because the text is so large and the size of your button is not enough to display it. So a really neat trick here is click on the white space, click on the button, make sure that you've got it selected either here or there, hold down the command and press the equal sign, and it will resize the button automatically to fit the size of the text inside. Okay, cool. So make sure that you've got the button somewhere nice, and let's change the background color. So you can't really see it up here, but if you scroll all the way down, you can see background. And we're going to change the color to a nice pinky color. Or if you want to find your own color, you can, instead of clicking on the up and down arrow part, which brings up this palette, what you can do is you can click on the color itself and it will bring up the color picker. And we're going to go, so I'm choosing this hex code, which is Eb586F, but you can actually click on this color wheel and pick anything that you think looks good. So let's go for a nice reddish color. There we go. And now that roll word looks kind of awkward in blue, so let's go and change that to a white color. Looks a bit better. And although that button is, nicely fitting the text, it's very awkward being so small. So I'm just going to stretch it out and make it look like a normal button. And then, of course, we have to replace it in the center. And there you go. That's your mock-up for your app done. Now, this looks very similar to the End app, but we haven't touched a single line of code. The beauty here is that you can actually go ahead and mess around with the placements. You can say, maybe I want this a bit lower. Maybe I want these a bit closer. Maybe I want it to look like that. Or maybe I want my roll button to be a lot bigger. But you can go ahead and mess around with it. And at the point where it looks pleasing to your eye, then that's when it's perfect. All right, so go ahead and have a play with that. Now let's just go ahead and run this app. So if we click on the little A symbol, and you can see that it's updating to show our app icon that we inserted, and select iPhone 5. Remember that the canvas that we've got at the moment is an iPhone 5 size, so we're going to run it on an iPhone 5 also. And I'll show you why in just a moment. So if you click the play button, it will run the app. And here is our Dicey app. So, of course, none of the buttons or the images do anything because we haven't written a single line of code. But appearance-wise, I quite like the way it looks, and I'm happy with how it is. But there's a key flaw, and I'll show you what the problem is. If you go into hardware and you click rotate left to simulate a user turning it to landscape, you'll see that the whole design is messed up and everything looks weird. The other problem is that if I try to run this app on a different screen size, one that isn't iPhone 5, let's see what happens. So let's stop this run session and let's go ahead over here and click on, say, iPhone 6. Let's run it on an iPhone 6 screen size. Again, click run or use the shortcut Command R. And this is what happens. So our screen is only fitted to an iPhone 5 because we designed it on a canvas that was the size of an iPhone 5, and we placed all the elements in accordance to the borders of that canvas. Now, this isn't a very pretty app, and if I uploaded this onto the App Store, people with iPhone 6s will complain and try to slash my tires. So how can we prevent this? So in the next episode, we're going to learn about auto layout and setting constraints. And these are rules that you can set for the design to conform to so that they look good no matter what screen size and no matter which orientation. So that's all from us in this episode, and see you in the next lesson. Remember to subscribe and see you soon.